Jerry Corbyn.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Could the Foreign Secretary tell us exactly what arms have been supplied to Israel over the past 6 months? What arms are being supplied now to Israel? What RAF Akrotiri is being used for? Is it supporting the Israeli war machine? And can he inform the House categorically that no component part of an F-35 jet made in Britain is supplied to Israel to continue their bombardment of Gaza?
Well, can I say to him with judgment that he asked me a similar question a few weeks ago and I gave him the answer that we suspended arms sales. That was a sober decision made. They're not being given to Israel for use in Gaza at this time. That is a strict decision under our export licensing regime, save for the carve-out we've made for F-35s, which I know he disagrees with, but that is the position because we're not prepared to disrupt supply chains across the world.
Say.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. What we've heard from senior UN officials this morning should frankly send shivers down the spine of every member in this chamber. 14,000 Palestinian children could die in the next 48 hours because of Israel's actions. And what we're getting today is stronger words, but with limited action. The time for this Foreign Secretary is long gone. We need further bold and immediate actions. End all arms sales to Israel, impose economic sanctions and ban Israeli settlement goods. What is the government waiting for?
I'm very grateful to the honourable gentleman. I've set out the position as it stands today, and I would ask him to look carefully at the Prime Minister's statement just this morning and to look at what he's indicated. Further action could be taken if we do not see this further expansion and this restriction of aid come to an end.
Chambers.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. We welcome the statement today, and I would like to reiterate my honourable friend's calls for the recognition of Palestine and the immediate cessation of all arms sales to Israel. But as important as these are, given that the UN has said 14,000 children and babies may die within the next 48 hours, I would like to reiterate what many members have asked here today, is what is the concrete action that can be taken against an illegal blockade that is preventing medicine and food getting to these people? Does it include, with our allies, for example, airdrops of aid?
Can I say, when the honourable gentleman says what is the concrete action, the concrete action is really straightforward, that Netanyahu stops. He halts his course of action. That is the concrete action. We are taking concrete action with our allies to try and bring this to an end, but he knows that in the end, this is in the hands of the Israeli government. And standing here, holding your hands, expressing disgust is not sufficient. I recognise that, but it is in the hands of the Israeli government. They will be held to account if they don't act.
Andy MacDonald.
Deputy Speaker, I very much welcome the tone and content of the Foreign Secretary's statement. I sincerely wish it had come a long time ago, but I've got to tell him on the issue of British arms, they're still getting through in vast quantities to Israel to wreak havoc. The question is, will what he says stop the genocide? For months, the government has claimed it cannot make an assessment whether there is a serious risk of genocide, as it is waiting for a determination by the courts. In the High Court last week, the government told the court it had already conducted an assessment under the Genocide Convention. Which is it? Has a determination been made? And if so, does he want to correct the record?
Can I say to him that arms are not getting to Israel that could be used in Gaza? He will recognise that the United Kingdom is a very small supplier in percentage terms of Israel arms, so I can't account for other countries, and other countries have not made the decision that we have made. And I stand by the assessments that I have made that led to me suspending arms.
Harry Wilson.
Madam Deputy Speaker. The House has debated this issue for many, many months now, in fact well over a year, on a regular basis. Yeah. But we must remind ourselves the reason why we're doing this is that brutal terrorists attacked innocent individuals, innocent citizens, burnt, raped, murdered, tortured and took them hostage, and then continue a conflict against Israel. And I think in an expression of anger today, the Minister could have been much more balanced. Instead of talking about attacking hospitals, why isn't he condemning the terrorists who use the hospitals for bases, knowing the consequences? Instead of talking about the lack of aid, why is he not recognising aid is given and the fact that that aid must not be allowed to be abused by terrorists in Israel? And his message should be...
Order! Our constituents are watching. Foreign Secretary.
On every occasion that I have stood at this dispatch box on this matter, I have raised the reprehensible behaviour on October the 7th, and I have also raised the reprehensible behaviour of Hamas. And I've done that today, and I'll do it again.
Slaughter.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The atrocities happening in Gaza and the West Bank, and those even worse which are threatened, amount to the worst attack on Palestinians since the Nakba 77 years ago. Will he give pause to the Netanyahu regime by imposing sanctions on its ministers and banning trade with illegal settlements? And will he give hope to the Palestinian people by recognising the state of Palestine now?
I won't comment on any future sanctions, except he will know that we keep these issues under review, and he will have seen the Prime Minister's statement on these matters a few moments ago, and indeed his statement alongside the Canadian and the French leaders as well. And I know that he's been a long campaigner of the second issue. His views are very well known.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Foreign Secretary talks of children orphaned, but if the 14,000 babies that are at risk of death comes true, it would wipe out an entire generation. And we've also seen families burned alive in tents in events that have shocked the world. Enough is enough, Foreign Secretary, and I'd like to join the Right Honourable Member for North West Hampshire in begging you in my knees if I need to take more action. I accept there are more settlers that have been sanctioned, but it has to be time for the Israeli government to face those sanctions. Please can the Honourable Member confirm that this is actively being explored?
Well, I've said what I've said from the dispatch box, and we've taken further action today. Let us see tomorrow what that yields.
Zara Sultana.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Between October and December 2024, the government approved over £127 million in export licences to Israel, exceeding the combined total under the Tories for 2020 to 2023. These licences, granted after the government's so-called temporary suspension, include components for lethal F-35 fighter jets. Jets Israel is now flying at 5 times the usual rate, decimating Gaza. Children are starving, families have been wiped out, hospitals destroyed. Yet the government in court claims that there is no evidence Israel targets civilians. The Foreign Secretary is personally responsible and refuses to ban all arms sales to this genocidal state. So, like many across Britain, I have to ask the Foreign Secretary, how do you sleep at night?
Well, the Honourable Lady has raised figures that I don't recognise. She's raised once again the issue of arms sales to Israel. I banned arms sales that could be used in Gaza. I know that the Honourable Lady is keen on clickbait, but I'm not going to be baited from this dispatch box.
Brendan O'Hara.
Madam Deputy Speaker, and allow me to repeat the question from my honourable friend from Bristol Central, which went unanswered. Last week, 65 members from 9 political parties across both houses wrote to the Prime Minister asking that he publish the most recent genocide assessment, the one that convinced him to send his lawyers to the High Court to argue that no genocide has occurred or is occurring. So will the government now publish that assessment